Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, your host of That Girl the Podcast. I'm an author, performer, 2-time Emmy Award winner, human relationship specialist, and founder of the wellness website loveyouevenmore.com. Each week I bring on inspiring people and experts in their field to have powerful, motivational, and enlightened conversations about relationships, self-development, and how you can live your most authentic life. Welcome, Sharon Price John, to That Girl the Podcast. Sharon is the president and CEO of Build-A-Bear Workshop. She came on in 2013 and since then has turned the company around, making 2021 its most profitable year to date and 2022 its most successful. It also just celebrated its 25th anniversary, making it a multi-generational product that is not only standing the test of time, but continuing to thrive. Sharon has served as president of Stride Right Children's Group and held senior director role as Hasbro and Mattel, working on the Barbie line in particular, which I loved. She is a mother and a wife and someone who truly understands how to follow her heart. Thank you so much for being here, Sharon.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's just, you have a new book coming out very soon at the beginning of 2023 called Stories and Heart, which has a little heart on it, which is the whole theme of Build-A-Bear. We have a little Build-A-Bear here that you guys see.
I see that.
Cute. When I opened the box, I was like, this is a very big box for a book. And I opened it up and it was a sweet bear with a little pen in the book. And I was like, I instantly just wanted to cuddle and hold it, which is so true of Build-A-Bear, that is so about heart. And that is so much what your book is about, is going through your story personally of how you became you and truly following your heart, which to me, I'm only halfway through the book because I just got it, but and the main thing I really hear is that it's about what is your biggest adventure? What is your heart really telling you to do? So tell me a little bit about how that began for you, because it feels like it started at a very young age, even with climbing the beech tree. So feel free to just tell me how that all started.
That's a lead in. And, one of the reasons that we include that pen, by the way, is because it's not just a book, it's also a workbook, which you figure out. I'm not here to try to tell people what to do or what not to do. It's really just some guideposts on learning to look internally and really getting in touch with your deepest desires, and then leaning on where your natural talents lie and recognizing that and putting some goals and plans together, but then recognizing that the journey is so much a part of what makes life exciting. So you can't get too sideways when everything's not working out perfectly. In fact, it is always working out perfectly if you can get a long enough arc on it. That's sometimes hard. The beech tree is the first story. It's the opening story, the name of the chapter. And a lot of the chapters have some tongue-in-cheek kind of Southern humor to them. I can't help myself. I grew up in Tennessee. And that is called Life's a Beech, Beech, the name of the tree. And it was about, my impossible tree when I was 11 years old that whether I realized it or not, I was probably using as a means to deal with the grief of the death of my grandmother, sort of a distraction during that summer. And I saw this tree in the midst of something that we called the Pine Woods, where I grew up in a small town. And I thought, if I could just climb that tree, the tree was so big, these big snaky roots. And I was like, that tree has to have wisdom, So I sort of made it my summer goal. No one could ever get to that one big first limb, but I could see these initials scratched up beyond that. And I'm like, wow, that's proof, right? But it's a journey about me figuring out how to climb this tree. I eventually did get up there, but I don't want to give it away, but I got stuck. So I'm not going to tell the story how I got down. But it was, for me at that time, being a small child, 11, but in the middle of the woods when it's starting to get dark and the cicadas are screaming at you and your parents are going to get mad if the sun sets and you're not home. Yeah. That's the perfect, the perfect combination for kid drama. But the reason I share this story is that often in my adult life, many, many years later, when I would be going to sleep at night, I would take the journey to the pine woods and climb this tree. And I never really could figure out the why behind it. And I thought, I need to figure this out. When your mind or your soul keeps bringing things back up to you, it's something you need to deal with most of the time. And one day I realized what it was. And it was because it was that moment of me being stuck in this tree after creating this really what felt like a big goal. And it didn't go how I thought it was going to go. Like I had to try really hard. I accomplished it. I was sitting up there and then it was bad. I was stuck. And this was scary. And I was going to get in big trouble for how was I going to get down? I break a leg, break an ankle. How was I going to get out of this tree? No one could hear me. But I of course, clearly I did get out of the tree, but the kind of epiphany was that, wow, what I did after that experience was I decided, whether I knew it or not, that setting big goals was something that I wanted to do in life, even if it didn't go exactly like I thought it was going to go. And because it might turn out to be fun, because in the end, my solution turned out to be fun, something that I went back and did over and over again to get out of this tree. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of times in life, when people are young and they first try to do something hard, and it doesn't work out or it doesn't go exactly like they planned, they create an entirely different narrative around that story, which is, I don't want to set these big goals anymore because it might not turn out like I planned. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, it's always not going to turn out exactly like you planned. It's all about the story you wrap around it. And that was the big unlock for me from a life perspective, is nothing is anything until you decide to call it something, until you put a name on it. And I decided that experience that many could have said was a very dangerous, bad experience that you shouldn't have done, I decided to call that a great experience that taught me to set big goals. And even if it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, it could still turn out just fine. And by being able to do that in life, it's given me a lot of, faith and fearlessness in some cases to just try something new, because as another chapter is named, I've gone through a lot of challenges and opportunity and seeking out opportunities in my life based on what's the worst thing that can happen. Because so many times the worst thing that can happen is nowhere near what's probably going to happen. And if you just keep pushing and keep rethinking the narrative, you create a different kind of story for your life.
That's such a powerful thing to get as 11-year-olds. You're just a child still. And to really have that be your first introduction into doing hard things and, I can get through it. And it can be a different narrative, like you're saying. I know adults who are still just figuring that out now. And so to be that age and to see that perspective is huge. And you're right, it absolutely does follow you through a lot of big, interesting, creative decisions that you make. You go to, Belgium, you learn how to speak German and you spend, some time there. You go into New York, and this is actually my favorite story so far, is that you're like, I'm going to get into advertising after college. You're like, I'm going to get into advertising. I'm going to go to New York because that's where it's happening. Where else would I go? you've been working in Tennessee, but you're like, no, I'm going to go to the big city. And you line up all of these interviews and you talk about how it's, well, you almost have this like naivety about you that is so precious. And I really want to talk about the naivety of like going after what you want, because you do, and you end up getting in a job at a huge ad agency because you basically asked for it. So tell that story, because I think it's really imperative to having this faith that you talk about, absolutely, and just asking for what you want.
Well, in that particular story, I do think that the ability to just go to New York, knowing really no one, right, probably does link back to the story of the beech tree, because again, that story is intrinsically tied to this idea that no matter what happens, I can figure it out, right? That's the basis of that. Stuck in a tree, it didn't go well, but I figured it out. I sat there and figured it out. And that's, so when you believe that, that changes the filter that you use for almost every decision. Even if it's, so you're acknowledging that it might not go exactly right, but that's okay because I'll figure it out.
Right.
And going to New York and setting up all these interviews, though, little more nuance to this was just, and to the naivete that you speak about, is sometimes you truly do better when you don't know better.
That's so true.
and I mean, there is a truth to beginner's luck.
Yes.
That people speak of that because it happens. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it happens because people don't go in with the preconceived ideas, the nervousness, the I know all about this, whether sometimes the danger, sometimes the skill that's needed to achieve X, Y, and Z. And it's because of the lack of that impeding your ability to perform is why you do it with excellence. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I had clearly very little knowledge of the odds of succeeding with this outrageous idea that I could go to Manhattan in 1 week, in 15 interviews, walk away with a job at a top 10 ad agency. I mean, no one would do it. Yeah, I wouldn't have ever tried if I'd actually known the astronomical odds of that. But because I didn't, and I completely believed it was possible, it by definition changed my odds because of the way I approached it. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. It does. I think that there is magic in that. You're absolutely right. The beginner's luck is just a way of calling it what it is. It's like you want something. And I think sometimes not having all the information, you're right. Like just, it gives you a benefit. You go in, you play full out, and you end up, wowing your interviewer. Of course, tell them about the offer that she gives you.
Oh, so this is years ago, right? So
it's been a minute, but yeah.
but yeah, so after all this, I do get this call back to, famous agency, DDB Needham. And I'm, at this point, I'm like, wow, I'm just right on the precipice of my dream coming true. And I walk into the recruiter's office. And she says, well, we want to hire you for the DDB Needham training program. And the starting offer is $24,000 a year. And I'm like, well, I'm sitting here thinking I've already worked a year or so, and these people are just out of school. And I still to this day can't tell you what overcame me. But I just blurted out 25. That I'm like, I'll take it for 25. And I thought, what have I done? I mean, in that split second, it was this mixed energy I had this in my hands and now I've pushed the envelope. I don't really think she knew exactly what to do with me at that point. I think I just caught her so off guard, that this young lady has come in She's negotiating the salary. But she did give it to me. And then she says, we'll call you in a couple of weeks and, we'll send you the letter and we'll call you in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, let's just do it now. What's keeping you from doing this right now? What else could you possibly need to know?
She knew how to sell that. You just closed that deal.
Apparently. I mean, it still just strikes me as like hilarious looking back on it. But, I think that some of that had to do with me visualizing that moment so many times about in my mind how I wanted that to go. And when it didn't go that way, I instinctively changed course to make it go that way. I really cannot explain it in any other fashion, but that I had for over a year planned and schemed and dreamed and visioned and thought about what's going to happen in this moment when, not if, when I get my job in New York. How am I going to do that? And so in the clutch, there was no thinking. This just came out. I wasn't really contemplating. I was following my mission. And I guess it came out with passion, which once again, I didn't realize and recognize the odds, but I was sincere and passionate and gave an argument about it that made sense. I'd had more experience. And that not knowing better helped me do better. But I think that in the end, maybe she could feel that energy of sincerity. I can't actually explain it other than that.
I loved hearing you say it, just blurted out, because when I read that, that's how it felt to me. Like, no, this is my job and this is what I deserve. And, I'm very spiritual. So like when I hear that, I'm like, oh, well, your higher self, your soul was like, no, this is what I'm worth. And I'm just going to say it. And your body was like, whoa, hold on. Like, wait. But I love that that's what happened, because that's what you wanted. And that's what you had visualized for so long. What's so interesting is that same thing kind of happened to me at one of the biggest jobs I ever had.
Oh my, tell.
It's very short, but I went in for an interview that I was so not qualified for with NBC Universal to be a producer and interview people, right? That's what I did for years, but it was the first job. And I went in completely like naive to what I should have had on my, on my resume and my background. And I went in so confident. I was like, no, I can do this. Even the way I sat was extremely confident. And looking back, I'm like, why would you do that? But I got it. Like I left with the job and I was like, that's right. And it's just like what you're describing. You just know you can do it. And there's no question in your mind that you can do it. So you just ask for it. Like, why not me? Why not this rate? Like, tell me.
Right. So clearly you weren't underqualified for that position.
Apparently I was not. But if I had known more going in, I would have been like, oh no, I shouldn't even put my resume in. I'm not even ready for it. But I was, and I did great.
Well, there's a lot of data about that. And that
really?
There's a lot of data about people assessing their worthiness for a position and how we think about that worthiness. And it varies greatly along gender lines.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How is it? What gender is more confident in this?
So, the data, and it's in a book called The Confidence Code. Yeah, Katty Kay and Claire Shipman, they're wonderful. And that data is outlined in the book, some research that if say there's 10 or so criteria for a job, oftentimes the guys will think if they check the box on about 50% of them, they should apply for the job. And women have a much higher qualification standard. And what's really ironic about that is that if you check the box on every single aspect, aren't you already qualified for the next job?
I was just going to say, aren't you overly qualified?
Yes. And then you start this cycle of you probably don't get the position because you're overqualified.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a psychology in that I think would be of great benefit for, clearly if you decide that it's not your job to assess your worthiness within reason. Mm-hmm. It's their job. And if, clearly there's got to be some sort of dynamic of reality associated with applying for X, Y, and Z job, but within reason, you shouldn't be able to do everything. And it's really the confidence with which you are able to express the certain areas of challenge for you. So if they say, can you do this? Can you do this? Well, I can do this, this, and this, and I can learn this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. Or I've experienced this. I believe that I have the technical skill on this, this, and this, but I'm really looking forward to mastering that, and that. I mean, that's even a more exciting candidate than somebody that comes in and says, yeah, I already know how to do all this. So in the back of your mind, isn't the interviewer thinking, well, are they ambitious or not?
Right. Right.
So it's the irony of that the sometimes the female candidate believing that they need to have every single aspect of that job mastered is actually what works against them in the hiring process.
That's powerful. That's really a good thing to remember, because I'm listening and I've absolutely felt that way. Like, oh, it's not worth it. I'll wait. I'll come back when I'm more ready for it.
Then I'm going to ask you in that case, and this is what I encourage, everyone to do. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Absolutely. If anything,
what's the worst thing that can happen?
You don't get the job.
Well, looks like you didn't have the job anyway. So really, it was an hour out of your day.
Right. And something I heard just recently, whether it's an interview or an audition or whatever it is, it's practice. You're practicing the interview process. You're practicing. And I loved hearing that, even if you don't get the job. It's great. So I want to talk about when you worked at Mattel at the very beginning. You worked with the Barbie line, which was something that was very near and dear to your heart. Same here. Loved Barbie. Still do. And there was, in the very beginning of starting, you were being very quiet at meetings. You weren't wanting to speak up, which is interesting because you clearly know how to speak up and you are very faith-filled. And you weren't, because you were trying to learn. And when I read that, I thought, oh, I feel like I would do that too. Like, hey, I'm the newbie. I want to learn the lay of the land. I want to be respectful. I just want to sort of absorb everything. And then I'll spit out ideas and tell them what happened because of that.
Well, I think that first, I think that is fine in the very beginning, but I think I prolonged it.
Okay.
Because that particular group of mostly women that were running Barbie at the time, so dynamic, so smart, so educated. I mean, and not because of them, but because of the way I perceived it, so intimidating. They weren't trying to be intimidating. They were just wow,
amazing. Yeah.
And you're like, should I don't know, should I say anything? Is it time? Should I talk? And I did have a mentor of mine and still a dear friend of mine who was many layers senior to me then, pull me over and ask me, like, why aren't you talking? Why aren't you saying anything? It literally, I can see the wheels turning. We hired you to contribute to this company and this brand. You have to talk. And
you have to.
And I think there was a little bit of the outsiders club. Like, how could I even be in this Barbie world? I don't, a little bit of I don't deserve it. I shouldn't even be here. The imposter syndrome, all of those things all piled together. And what she was telling me is, get over yourself. we hired you because we want you to be here in this class. You don't have to earn your way in anymore. You're already a part of who we are. You just have to participate. That's why we want you here. We want to hear your point of view. And I think I mentioned in the book that she unleashed something. I think there were times where they're like, oh, why did we tell her that? No, but ultimately, I had such a terrific, so much, it was such a great career at Mattel. I learned so much. It was such a fabulous time for Barbie. And eventually went to the Disney business unit and had a chance to be an expat in Paris. And it was a terrific experience. And without that, if I never said anything, who knows if they would even kept me there.
I think that the imposter syndrome and the feeling that you're not good enough or do you deserve to be there is such a woman-based feeling with business. We are still really kind of trying to overcome that. And, you can hear the whole like boss babe culture, hustle culture that, talked about so much. But at the end of the day, I mean, we need to help support women. And that's why I love this interview so much, because you are so strong and you have fought through so much and you're just human too. You had those feelings too. You felt intimidated by these incredible women who, again, it's like you want to work with someone who's just as good as you, if not better. Let's go for better, right? We want to grow. Let's move forward into Build-A-Bear because this is a very special story. You started in 2013 and became president and CEO in 2016. And Build-A-Bear has taken a huge transformational change because of you. So tell me, first of all, I want to know why Build-A-Bear? What was it about the company that really spoke to your heart?
Oh, I think some of that's obvious.
I mean, yes, obviously, look at the bear. Look at the bear.
Yeah. Well, I love kids products or kid-centric products. I love the youthfulness of that. I learned to love retail late in life, running vertical retail. I like the direct relationship that you have with guests in a vertical environment. I'd already spent quite a bit of time in the toy industry. But what this brand means to people is really special. And teddy bears and stuffed animals were an important part of my childhood. And I know that they're important to so many. And now we're beloved by not just kids, as you mentioned in the opening remarks, being 25 years old. Now we're beloved by people of all ages for all sorts of reasons, from collectors to comfort toys to gifting to birthdays. I mean, it's just amazing how fortunate this brand is to get to weave itself into the fabric of people's lives and their memories and their narrative. I love that. But we were still, we were struggling in 2013. And although I appreciate the comment on the because of me, but I might have been the impetus, but nothing happens without a team. Nothing happens without a strong strategy. Nothing happens without tenacity. That was a big part of what we were able to harness to reinvigorate this business in the midst of a lot. These names are crazy. If I was making up names, I couldn't do better. The retail apocalypse and a global pandemic and Brexit. And these are just, it sounds
lots of stuff happened.
Sounds like a movie plot,
It was. It's been a movie. We're still in a movie.
But for the changes that we made to understand that the power is in the love that people have for this brand, and that if we can just grasp that power and create a new business model around it that's more indicative of the way that today's consumers want to engage, whether that's shifting our physical retail to places that more where family goes for fun and entertainment today, which is a lot of malls that's still the case, but just this mall kind of approach was not going to be as beneficial as it had been in the prior decades. So now we are in, everything from cruise ships to hospitality to restaurants to, amusement parks. Like we're now where families go for fun and entertainment in a new way on the physical side, recognizing that we really needed to find a way to participate in the digital economy, because that is most definitely where the consumer is leaning. So relaunched our website, created multiple types of sub brands in the website, whether it's Bear Cave for an older consumer or our Heart Box for the gifting consumer, which is what you received with the box.
So cute.
Or making an option where you can kind of build the bear in a digital way that virtually brings the bear to life, and you go through the heart ceremony, which is called Build-A-Bear 3D, or in a more traditional, even super simple, few clicks on a mobile site, and get your collectible Harry Potter bear very quickly. So it was multi-dimensional. And then we recognized some other opportunities to move into different categories, whether that's pajamas or even with some of our outbound licensing partners, things as unconventional as pet toys or bicycles, Build-A-Bear branded bicycles. Right. And now we're in the content creation business as well. So it's a very broad range of what we've been able to do. And yes, thank you for the mention. We did in 2021, the year after the year of COVID, is the most profitable year in the history of our company. And we actually just changed our guidance, increased our guidance for 2022 with the expectation of being the most successful year in the company's history.
It's amazing. I love that you have spread and diversified so much and spread it out so that it's like, oh my gosh, I love Build-A-Bear, and here's a Build-A-Bear bike, and like it just makes sense. Like you said, you just went into content creation. I want to know more about Honey Girls. I don't actually know much about them, but I did read about them and was like, wait, what is this? So tell me about Honey Girls.
Yeah, well, first you have to watch the film on Netflix, because
I will
live action. And it stars Ashanti and has 3 Grammy Award winners in associated with the film. Julia Michaels, who is the music producer, and Mark Ryland, who wrote the songs for Ashanti, and Ashanti herself is a Grammy Award winning artist. So really excited. And the 3 girls who play the Honey Girls, so super talented, truly just wow when you watch them together. But this entire construct around creating our own intellectual property started many years ago, where we recognized that Build-A-Bear has a lot of great licensed relationships. I mentioned Harry Potter, but also with Star Wars, the Disney characters. We have so many deep-seated licensing relationships that are often tied to films or episodics or things that come out, but that's great. And we're able to appeal to a really broad audience and create tremendous relationships and marketing approaches with the companies that we've been in business with for years and years. But then what we had was a store experience, but not stories and characters within our own world that people knew. We have 2 characters that kind of show up all the time, Bearamy and Paulette, in their outfits. They're costumed, well, no, they're real characters. Scratch that.
They're real. They're real guys.
They come to our stores on occasion. But they don't have backstories, and there's no, kind of storyline that goes along with them. They're just a part of our company. And we were thinking, like a lot of intellectual property companies, that we should create our own stories and our own characters that are sub-brands of Build-A-Bear. Honey Girls was one of the first one that we did. Was it the first one? I think it was, because that particular segment of our consumer, that slightly older girl. When we say older, we mean not a preschooler. Was, you know, really into, we know what they like because we get all this, you know, data, these bright colors and the music and the contests and things like that. But we wanted to make sure that everything that we do is true to our mission, which to add a little more heart to life. And that means our content as well. So it was really important to me when we started to create this storyline that this did not fall into what has sort of become the classic genre of Mean Girls or something where the girls are in competition with each other. So we set it up so that the girls were all very talented singers or musicians, and that they all entered a contest. But what they figured out is that they would be better together, that they would actually change their odds of winning the contest if they could find a way to work as a band. And so that's the underlying driver of this. But the contest doesn't allow them to do this. So therein lies the conflict. Mm-hmm. But the drive for them and what they were willing to sacrifice to be better together and to have each other's backs is really precious.
I love that. I love that storyline for young girls. We need to start teaching them at a young age that, we are better together, and girl power, and that we aren't competing with each other. We're trying to lift each other up and fix each other's crowns. I love that.
Right. So we, we fold that into, the sort of classic everything that girl that age loves, which is music and dancing and fun and contests and being together. Yeah. And that kind of, you kind of don't see that one coming.
I love it.
But we've gotten a lot of just amazing reviews. It's been really fun. And we, one of the interesting things too is that when they were created for the Build-A-Bear workshop, they were in animal form, which was a tiger, a bear, and a bunny. And we had to come up with a storyline of how to then bring that backstory into the live action film, which is also a pretty fascinating and really rich and deep approach.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And you have one other movie that you're doing with Hello Sunshine, which is Reese Witherspoon's production company. I'm a big, big fan of Hello Sunshine. Been a big fan of theirs for years. They make amazing content. This is going to be a new Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but there's a new spin on it. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's reimagined, and it does have, it's going to have a strong female lead. And it will be full of some twists and turns. Pretty exciting. But we have other films too. We've been in business with Hallmark. We have 2 Hallmark films out. Also, some very strong female leads in both of those stories. One is called Christmas CEO.
Here we go.
Yeah, loosely based on some things I might have done in my life.
Guys, Christmas. Let's watch it right now.
Right now. And then the other one too, the prior year, is also a holiday film. And then we have our documentary that will be coming out next year. Yeah.
Well, I do love me a documentary, so I'll be watching
it's directed by Taylor Morden, a award-winning documentarian, and it chronicles the story of Build-A-Bear all the way to the current day, and some of the things that I mentioned early on.
Amazing. My last question is, your book is Stories and Heart, and Build-A-Bear is all about heart. When you have followed your heart throughout your life, and you've done it so much, and it's led you to such a beautiful place, what is the most important thing that you want to share about following your heart to others?
Oh, wow. I think, in all seriousness, you have to get in touch with your heart to follow it. And that takes a lot of work. That's not something that we as humans just can wake up and do. There's a lot of noise in the world and a lot of people and things and media telling you what is or isn't. And sometimes the people that love you the most that are telling you what is or what isn't. Mm-hmm. But you have to choose your journey. And that's the only way that it really starts to get uncannily meaningful. Mm-hmm. But that requires, again, work. And when I say work, I'm talking about not I'm going to work harder at this. I'm talking about looking deep inside and being the very best person that you can be and recognizing what that means. And that you're willing to bring people along with you and that we're all in this together and we're all connected. And when all of that starts to click, being able to follow your heart is a lot easier. Now, along the way, I created different kinds of mechanisms to help me with that, including my price values, where I created a lot of words about what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was still in college. Yeah. And I based it on my last name at the time, Price. Which is Price, yeah. So, perseverance and respect and to make choices with intelligence and do things where I'm always pushing on my creative side and that whatever I do, I want to do it with excellence. Mm-hmm. So those kinds of mechanisms and tools help you have guardrails on your path, but at the end of the day, you can get to a place where you deeply know whether this or that is the right path or not. And then you just don't waste a lot of time out on the edges.
I love that. I think it is just that simple too. Thank you so much, Sharon, for coming on. It was just lovely to talk to you. You guys go get her book. It's coming out soon. I'm going to let you tell me when it's coming out.
Yeah, it is coming out January the 17th. It is available for pre-order right now on Amazon.com. And I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to do something really quickly here. Okay. And I'm going to share another piece of intellectual property with you, which is Glisten. Because Glisten has her own movie coming out too, Glisten and the Merry Mission. We just announced this for Christmas 2023. And I forgot to mention it when we were talking about intellectual property. But she's so pretty. She's so pretty. She's so pretty. And she's all about following her heart too. She's about faith.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I feel so warm and fuzzy. This has just been so lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for reading my book.
I love it. I can't wait to finish it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. Make sure to rate the podcast and leave a review. We really rely on this to help get the podcast out there. Follow us for daily updates on myself and the podcast at That Girl the Podcast and at Jackie Brubaker on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and our Patreon page. While you're at it, make sure to check out my new wellness website, loveyouevenmore.com. If you're wanting to dig into developing more self-worth, be healthier about relationships, and learn how to date smarter, go to loveyouevenmore.com and follow us on Instagram at loveyouevenmore.